can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, get any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags, with my co-host, Bo. McLovin will be back here in about an hour. At least so he says. He may be early, he may be late. We never know. But how you doing today, Bo?
Doing good, my man. How about you?
I feel like that I am the cause of everything bad that ever happened in the world since I came on the scene. Like I said, when I went to go rehash that clip from yesterday, when I got blamed for COVID, I knew. I knew
Yes.
that was the real deal. That is the real deal.
You. Man.
So, yeah,
There's a
I
lot
tell
of people
you,
mad at you.
it's funny. It's funny that we say that because at one point, yeah, as ridiculous as this sounds, I was used as part of a biology class or something like that. That they marked. They did a study on how quickly I could, if I was the start of COVID,
Okay.
how quickly would I have been able to spread it around the world, me personally, for
sure.
the month of October and November 2022? Because it was figured at that point that I had touched more people during that time for October and November than anyone else in the world. That it was somewhere, I took somewhere around 50,000 pictures a month, or in that 6 weeks time span.
That's
and
crazy.
that it was determined about that I had between fist pumped, high fived, hugged, just touched by doing pictures and stuff like that, that I came in contact with over 250,000 people. And by doing that, I would have been able to spread it around the world in a matter of like I think they determined it was going to be like 8 to 9 weeks that it would have been spread around the world. That I personally, if I was the carrier, I could have infected the entire world. Yeah, I'm not. I was not the carrier. I actually am very big on I always am up in my immune system because I know how many people I do touch.
No, for
sure. You know what I mean? That's a really big deal. Like, so I'm always taking elderberry and extra vitamins and vitamin C and vitamin D and stuff like that. It's always washing my hands.
Your hands like 5,000 times a day.
Yeah, it's by there's no chance that I would be able to anytime I get a chance to, I'm washing my hands, and always making sure that it's like I try to remain as sterile as possible because you never know who else is sick.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? How many people blow their nose and then, you don't think about it because you ain't going to the bathroom. So you blow your nose and then you shake someone's hands. You know what I mean? So I would always carry some some of that disinfectant stuff in my hands and such. Yeah, all the time. So
that's like I always got those disinfectant wipes in my car too. Like it's just, you never know.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. And especially because it's just a particle, somebody sneezes, there's an air particle that could get into your car and land somewhere. Next thing you know, you touch it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not a biology major, so I can't say how long that's going to last, how long one of these things will make it. But, ultimately it's a real deal. So everybody wash your hands,
Yeah,
especially when you
exactly.
get out of the bathroom.
That's right.
So
All we need is the more you know across the top of the screen here. Wash your
there you go.
hands.
Perfect. Ding, ding, ding.
Mhm.
But so there was some news. There are no longer any coaching vacancies in the NFL. Dan Quinn. I'm sure that Jay is very excited about this, and we'll hear about this in about an hour.
Yep.
Dan Quinn is going to be hired as the new ownership's first coach.
Yep. So, do you think he keeps Bieniemy as on the staff, or do you think he brings in his own guys?
So, interestingly enough, I don't know the relationship between him and Bieniemy. So,
Me either.
it may be something that kind of works, maybe something that doesn't. I guess we'll find out here in the next few minutes. Yeah, like I said, maybe by reading this story, if it says anything about it, but
The one I saw
blah
didn't.
blah. It did not say. It does not say anything about it. So maybe he stays. Maybe he goes. Um, looking at everything, especially when you had those two guys pull out of the race, this was the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah, because I
So
mean, from there, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you probably could have went after what uh, the Dolphins OC, right? I think he was still technically available. I'm mind blanking his name, but I have it written down. So give me
yeah,
just
but is so
Frank Smith.
is
Frank Smith.
yeah, but is he the guy? Is he really the guy, or is it really the fact that you have a receiver that can stretch the field out very long, and as long as you got a quarterback that can throw to him, he's going to most of the time catch the ball and score a touchdown.
Yeah, it's actually the only reason I thought maybe he would have worked in Seattle, right? Because he would have had one of the fastest receivers in DK, right? But yeah, Washington. I mean, who knows what that team's going to look like? Honestly, like they have a lot of work to do. So, not that I think that Frank Smith was a better option. I don't. I think Dan Quinn is obviously the best remaining coach available. Because then all of a sudden you're at the Kafkas and you're dredging the bottom after you get past Quinn.
Exactly. Well,
I'm sure he's a good dude.
yeah. Not only that, but surprisingly enough, I mean, I don't know that they even spoke to Belichick, and I got to imagine Belichick is like, okay, going to sit this year out. Let's relax for a minute. Let's see what's going on, and how many
Yeah,
times are we going to see Belichick on a broadcast with Tom? That'll be interesting
that
because I
would
bet
be
you that
interesting.
occurs.
I
Bet you
would
that
watch that
occurs.
just for the awkwardness. I would be about that. I was surprised that you didn't really hear about him talking to Vrabel either.
Yeah, Vrabel was an interesting one that didn't get any play afterwards, and I wonder why that is. Do you think he took himself off the list?
I don't know. I mean, the one thing that I've seen that seems to be a common thread across this hiring, period, right? This season's hirings for coaches is that they really seem to be across the league as a whole. They really seem to be looking for positive culture guys. Because the guys that are like, you're doing it my way, the Belichick, the Vrabel, like they ended up without jobs. It's kind of interesting. Now, is there a correlation there? I don't know, but it's just interesting that the ones that have a little bit more of that, um, it, it's my way, culture building type of thing. Not to say that they're not successful. Obviously, they are, but for some reason, those ownership groups didn't lean that way. They leaned more towards the positive, player friendly kind of guys.
Well, is that because of the way that these new athletes are? Do you think that has more to do with it than anything else? That you have to create this positive culture because you don't want to have unhappy employees, because ultimately that's what that comes down to, is that if a
Sure.
player is unhappy, he's an unhappy employee, and he can make it miserable for everybody else because, let's face it, if one person farts in that locker room, everybody smells it.
That's for sure. So it's just the tights effect moving forward, huh? But
Kind of, kind
that's
of.
the athletes. That's the athletes we got. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. Honestly, I'm sure that plays a part of it. There's no doubt. Um, you know, they're not used to having guys telling them to shut up and get in line.
Yeah, but don't you feel like that? Listen, when you are a head coach of a
Sure.
professional football team,
Yeah.
you know, the owner of that organization is almost required to get somebody for that job who is going to be able to keep everybody in line, to
Mhm.
keep all the things from happening that shouldn't happen, to make sure that. And listen, we've even said that if these players get in trouble, there is a hotline for them to call.
Yes.
One
Yeah.
800 NFL. I'm in trouble. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like go ahead, get me out. So
Yeah.
it's there's something to be said for the fact that these guys are being coddled 100%. But you ain't supposed to be friends with
No,
your
that's the thing.
employees.
That's the thing. Like coaches that I had while they were coaching, we we weren't buddies. Like we didn't hang out. We weren't cool. I mean, we were fine, right? But there were plenty of times where you're just like, yeah, I hate this dude. But that doesn't matter. You're there to win games, right? And they're there to coach you. And then after football, ended up becoming friends with them. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, but in the moment, you're younger. You think you're something, right? And the coaching kind of has to still direct you to where you're supposed to be. So, yeah, I mean, I actually don't mind, some of that old coaching where they grab your face mask and they're like, what are you doing? Right.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
like I didn't mind any of that. So, like you could never do that today. Like they don't allow that. You get in trouble. But
Well,
it's
exactly, because what happened, I think that happened in college, didn't it? That the one guy did that, and they're like, it created such a storm, a media
yeah,
storm, that he did that in the first place. Hey, listen, I'm trying to get my guy in line here. I didn't smack him. I didn't beat him.
yeah,
I didn't, get a baseball bat and start beating on his legs. You know what I mean? I got his full attention. Yo, look at me. I need you to pay attention right here to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
exactly. Yeah. No,
So
and again, I never minded that because by the time you get by the time you get a coach there, let's be honest, you've been messing up for a minute. Like it wasn't one play. That
yes.
that was you were out of position multiple times. You're becoming a problem on the field today. That's the what are you doing?
Get your head out of your behind and
Nope.
start thinking about what it is that you're supposed to be doing rather than what you are doing, because what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, what you're doing is going to be finding that bench over there if you don't figure it out. Yeah, no,
Exactly. That's
100%.
exactly correct.
100%. And, to my mom's point, too soft. Yeah, they are Charmin soft out there, like double roll.
Exactly. Squeezing the Charmin, squeezing it. I and maybe I don't know what type of coach Quinn is. My thought is that the look of him gives me the appearance, the thought process that he is a little bit more old school. We know that Bieniemy, if he decides to keep him, is more old school. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's part of the reason why uh, people feel that he doesn't even get the chance to coach a team, because he is a little too harsh.
well,
Very
and
unrefined is a good way of putting it.
for sure, for sure. Well, and I think that's why Belichick and Vrabel, are sitting without jobs still. Quinn's kind of in between. Like he can get on you a little bit, but he is definitely a friendlier guy, which is why it worked with Carroll, right? Like with Pete Carroll is 100%. He's a player coach, right? Like he is you guys are competing for position all the time. So I mean, there's that. But he is your player empowerment kind of guy, right? Like he wants his players to be who they are, right? And Quinn does embrace some of that, which is, he kind of has both sides. But it's sort of a nice mix there, which is why I said, like, I don't hate him as a coach. It didn't make sense to bring him back. I think he can coach, clearly. But yeah, I don't know.
That's, and I've heard that a couple of times.
I have heard those rumblings.
So,
That would be
I mean, I
interesting.
guess it's possible. I tell you, if they're going to go all in, this year, that means that they're not going to have the opportunity to get Bill next year. I'm dead serious on that. So there's no chance. If Jones is saying is correct, that he is going to go all in, there's not a chance in the world, because he's going to mortgage tomorrow for today. He's going to have to.
For sure.
And in the process of mortgaging tomorrow, he's going to screw up the rest of the franchise for the kid. He's like, all right, Steven, go to town. It's all yours.
Yeah, that roster will absolutely fall apart. If he really does what it sounds like he wants to do, that's one of those, it better work, because you're going to get one shot.
Yeah, well, although he means it this time.
I mean, I don't know. Watching him, cry on camera, he might be there.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta feel like that he is down to the last bit of, like I said, he's already in the winter of his life.
Yes.
And I have to imagine that it's going to be something that will, if he doesn't go all in this time, there's not going to be many other times for him to do it. And even him, he's a smart guy. He's got to realize that this is going to be our last chance here for a minute, because there's no way that we can rehab, you have to go full demo mode and rebuild. You have to go full demo mode and rebuild.
Well, yeah, you're starting to get too much age on that team, right? Like, guys are starting to age out of their primes. Like, you're getting real close to this is it. So yeah, I mean, I think next season, to your point, is if they're making a run, that's the one.
Well, exactly. So there's a report that to talk about other coaching positions, the Titans are going to hire the Ravens defensive coordinator Wilson, or the Ravens coach Wilson as the next defensive coordinator down there. Hafley leaves Boston College to become the Packers defensive coordinator. And let's see, what else did I see? Who else did I see was going to be a coordinator here? Obviously, they hired McDonald as the head coach. Any idea on who he's going to have for coordinators? Because I hear that we took another, I don't know which one it was, but I heard we took another Seattle coach.
Yeah, I think you guys got a position coach. At this point, we have a head coach. That's what we got.
Yes.
I don't know enough about McDonald to really know what it is he's going to try and backfill this, this staff with. So I'm watching closely, because again, I don't know enough about him to kind of have a meaningful prediction. I was curious if he was going to try and go grab Bieniemy, right? Because I was thinking whoever ended up there would want to bring all their own staff in. And, like we talked about a little bit yesterday, is if they did go grab Bieniemy, he's closer to a head coaching job doing that than in a full rebuild Washington team, right? Because if he can come to Seattle, have some success with the toys that are here already, that can propel you forward for sure.
So I know that Pete Carroll had mentioned that he was not done coaching. He put his name out there in the arena and he didn't get a phone call.
Well, he only targeted one job. He only targeted the Chargers job.
Okay. So,
So
do you think he obviously is likely going to remain with the team in some type of capacity?
yeah, well, his contract was through next year, right? So I think this was the way of basically we got to pay you anyway, so we want you in house. So I mean, which is actually it's not a bad way to go, right? He's basically going to be helping Schneider. He's not going to help the team at all. Like he is there for John Schneider. He's just there for the GM. At least that's the way that they've made it sound so far. So yeah, exactly, Jeff. He'll be an advisor to Schneider. So, but he's not going to be involved in the team per se. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch how it is they use him. But yeah, I think more than anything, it was we're paying you, so we want to still use your skill set. And in a way, we also didn't want you to coach against us. So, had he wanted to go to the Chargers, they would have had to do something, a draft pick or something to Seattle to make that work because they own his contract. So they probably would have had to have some sort of trade value, um, you know. But again, obviously, he was only targeting the one job anyway, so he must not have
Right.
loved what he saw around the league.
Well, yeah, but then again, it's like I said, he's another year he's going to be 73, 74.
Yeah, 73. Yeah.
Is he going to be? So is that the time to start another coaching job?
Well,
And
it
the other
certainly
way I
isn't
look
time
at
to.
this,
It certainly isn't time to rebuild, right? Which is probably why he didn't like the other jobs that were open. Is those were all going to take time. The Chargers, you could win right away. I don't know if he had interest in Atlanta at all, but like that would have been your next best option as far as something that, hey, you go land a quarterback. You already have a defense that's decent. You got some pieces on offense. You could win kind of right away. That one would have made sense if he was trying to go that route. But I think more than anything, he wanted the Charger job because he'd just be going back to Cali.
that's right. And do you think he takes on more of an Arian style role?
No,
Do you,
because
that, do you think he has that much of a presence because he is part of this organization for so long that, it's like, okay, I'm still here. You haven't gotten rid of me yet. So now I'm still
so
going to have some say here.
I don't think so. With Arians, he still was part of like personnel decisions and things like that, right? Like he was more involved front office type of position. In this, it's really been made to sound like he is just an advisor to Schneider only. And so that would be I'm not even really sure what he would be doing, honestly. And when he was in his press conference and was asked what that role is, he's like, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. So it really just sounds like we're keeping you in house and we don't even know what we're doing with you yet. Like we're going to create this position that we haven't even set parameters for. So it'll be interesting to watch what it is, how much he's involved.
And that's what I get at. Like when hey, you just sit over here and be quiet. Do you think Pete Carroll's the type of guy who's going to sit over in the corner and be quiet?
I don't think he's capable of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
That dude has way too much energy for that.
That's what I'm talking about. So I got to imagine that it's going to be a challenge for him across the board on that whole stuff. That being said, to answer Joe's question, how does Eric Bieniemy keep getting passed over? So listen, Eric Bieniemy does come with a little bit of baggage here. You know what I mean? He has, he was the coach of Colorado University, and I don't know exactly what happened there, but there's something that occurred. You know what I mean? And ultimately, that's anytime that he has had conversations about becoming a head coach, not only does he not interview very well, the history comes back to haunt him some.
Yeah.
So as a coordinator, they don't delve into what happened back then. For the people that I know what happened, they're like, yeah, it won't come out unless it has to come out.
Okay.
So that's the reason why he wasn't able to really be suited for the Washington job. I thought there was no doubt in my mind that he was not going to be hired in Washington because new ownership, especially as tumultuous as the previous owner was, there was no chance that the first hire they were going to do that somebody's going to be able to open the suitcase. That's because that suitcase is really a Pandora's box. And that would create a big deal, especially in the nation's capital. If what is supposedly happened. I don't know. Again, I don't know the story, so I can't really say for certain. But
I mean, at the same time, wouldn't that be exactly where you'd want it to be? It's where every other sketchy thing happens.
But yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. And hey, listen, if you can hire a mayor right after he gets arrested for smoking crack, then
That's what I'm
ultimately, if
saying.
you're going to elect that guy, you could probably get away with just about everything down there. The problem is that the NFL does better than the U.S. in
Well, I mean,
terms of ratings.
there's no question, especially when it comes to protecting the brand.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of feel that it was never going to happen there.
Yeah,
I would have thought Pete Carroll might have been a better solution there. Not that he has all the pieces together, and they do have some pieces there. I know you
they
don't
do.
trust. I don't necessarily trust the quarterback, but I do trust the wide receiver. They have a halfway decent offensive line. They got rid of a couple of big pieces on their defensive line, but they still do have a portion of a defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a big fan of McLaurin.
they definitely have a few players, right? Like there's no question. Like they got a few dudes on that roster, but you're building a team. Like it's not we're a piece or two away. Like you're assembling a team. Like you're doing some work to put that thing together.
Right. And like I said, knowing this ownership, because they're also the owners of the Sixers, they stick to their managers for a minute or their coaches for a minute. They are going to give them every opportunity. So the fact that they have Dan Quinn here, I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Quinn isn't there for like 4 or 5 years, even during a time where he might not do very well. He's not going to be 1 year and done unless, again, something very strange occurs. If
It would
he
have to be
has,
crazy.
yeah, well, I mean, we have seen some crazy. I
True.
mean, think about Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes. Like if he just straight up loses his mind, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see anything quite like the Urban Meyer project.
No, and like obviously, you never even heard his name after he got let go. Is
He's
he
back.
coaching? Is he coaching like Liberty or something like that, or
Oh no, he's back on
some?
TV. He's back. He's back
Oh,
talking about college sports.
oh, well, good. At least there, it's he could dance with whoever he wants now.
Man,
Because that's what it was.
like how
It's
dysfunctional.
yeah. Hey, team, go ahead back. You take the plane back. I'm going to stick right here and I'm going to hang out with the girls for a minute. So, just it is what it is. But McDonald is a defensive guy, correct?
What's that?
McDonald is a defensive guy.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
So, I mean, his goal was to try to get that. I wouldn't be surprised if by chance Bieniemy doesn't stay with Washington, that he doesn't go across the country to go with you guys.
No, I
That
actually
would
think that
seem
would
like
be I think that would be a good fit for him, honestly. And the Seahawks going after McDonald made sense because I mean the defense has been bad, right? Like it's been bottom 5 for the last 5 years. Like it's been horrendously bad defense, despite the fact that they've kind of had a bigger payroll on it. But they kind of fall in that Chargers issue where they have a lot of payroll, but not a lot of production out of that unit. So I'm hoping he can bring some of that Ravens energy because that Ravens defense is no joke. So hopefully they can elevate the Seahawks defense a little bit, and the offense can be fine as long as guys are healthy. It's a dangerous offense.
So that brings me, and because the Ravens defense has been no joke for,
A long time.
we'll say, since 2000.
Sure.
Like
No,
before
they
then,
had a
there's
couple years. They had a couple years where they weren't great, but
right, not
they
great,
were not.
but also not ridiculous either. Like
Yeah.
they have had a beat 'em up defense. Like,
Yes.
we're going to beat you up, we're going to smack you in the mouth type defense. And ultimately, uh, is it because of the way that the GM picks the players? And because the GM was a defensive player for the Ravens, was he not? Like, he was actually like a Hall of Fame player, was he not?
I actually don't remember who their GM is offhand.
Yeah, let me. I mean, I I know. Like, the moment I see the name, it's uh, Eric DaCosta. That's not who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I was
Who
gonna.
was the one before? Ozzie Newsome. That's who
Oh,
I was
okay,
thinking of. Ozzie
I
Newsome.
gotcha.
And he was one of those guys that was like, he played defense. He went after, hard nose, smack you in the mouth type guys.
Yep.
So, if you learned underneath him, ultimately that's who you went after. I got to imagine you probably kept that mantra. Like, hey, I want strong defense. And I mean, if you really think about it, the Ravens are the Eagles in the late 80s, early 90s.
Absolutely.
When the gangrene defense, you had a monster defense that would almost win games all the time,
Yep.
and quarterback who went nuts, and maybe a piece or two around him,
Yep.
to help. But it
Yep.
was Cunningham that's the offense, and he
Yep.
spent all the money on the defense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to be fair, that's what Seattle has done. They generally have a good, and this is true for a long time. They've had a good defense, good running game. Like that. That's how they build their teams typically. So this right here, Joe, I've talked about them potentially trading DK for really the last year and a half. A lot of it has to do with, as much as he is an absolute unit as a human, right? Like that guy is a beast. There's no doubt. Um, the problem is he gets in his own way a lot. And is he a deep threat? No question. One of the fastest guys in the NFL. He can make all the spectacular catches. The problem with DK is he drops easy balls, and then you're almost guaranteed, at least every other game, you're going to get an unsportsmanlike conduct because he can't keep it between the whistles, right? Like, for whatever reason, he feels the need to shove corners to the ground and get in people's face after the whistle blows, and that's a 15-yarder all day, every day. But the thing is this is the first team for DK, and there's going to be another coach out there that's like, I like his speed, I like the things that he can do physically, and you know. We've only seen him have this issue here. Maybe I can change him, right? He's got that new girlfriend that I can change him into what I want. It never happens, but that's kind of the mentality that the coaching trees go through. It's why Diggs over there in Buffalo, right? Like he had issues with the Vikings. They bring him over there, and lo and behold, you're a few years into this thing, and he's starting to have issues again. So I think DK would end up the same way. If you look at the amount of flags that he gets, it's gotten worse every year. Like he gets more flags every year. So it's not like it's something, hey, he was young, but he's working through it. He's actually getting worse at it all the time. So I actually wouldn't mind if they moved on from DK. Bobo has absolutely shown out every time he's been on the field. So that's one of those, if you could get, maybe you could get a first, just speed alone, but say you get a second and a fourth, that's maybe a conditional third the next year or something like that. I could see moving on from DK. You're not really going to get anything for Lockett because of his age. But the thing is he's the most sure-handed guy on the team, and he doesn't take big hits. When you watch the game, not only like it can be frustrating because he's going to catch the ball and go to the ground. Doug Baldwin used to do that a lot too. But what it means is you're healthy because you're not taking that huge shot, right? You get the ball, you go to the ground, you get the first down, you don't take the big shot, you don't fumble, you catch the ball, you line back up. So I don't see Lockett really going anywhere, but I could see them moving DK if the offer was right.
What do you think is a proper offer?
Well, I mean, realistically, I think you could probably get, based on the way that people are shelling out first rounders for anything, I could see like a first and a fourth, and then picking up the rest of his contract. So true, Bobo isn't as fast as DK. There's no doubt, but they can scheme some things to get him open for sure. I like that my dad's jumping in here too. This is good stuff.
Oh, we got mom and dad. Let's go. Let's go.
Absolutely.
You know, how come his last name is not Freebird? I'm just I'm making fun there. I'm making fun there, Gary. So
but yeah, I mean, again, Bobo's not as fast as DK, obviously, but I mean, who in the league is, right? You got Tyreek Hill and you got DK, and then everybody else is a little bit slower.
No, I think, I don't know. I just don't see anybody putting out, because of some of the baggage that comes with DK. You know, especially because you got to pick up the contract. You'd have to, deal with some of his antics.
Well, that's the biggest red flag, right? So it'd have to be a coaching staff that is like, we can change him. And there's always at least one of those out there. And they usually have a high draft pick because they make bad decisions.
Well, yeah, but I mean, any first round pick would probably do well here. Like if you're going to take on DK, again, my thought is that you'd probably do it for a second rounder, a second and a fifth.
Yeah.
And a conditional third to second, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, if he gets 1,000 yards in the year, your third round pick will come a second round pick next year. But I think a second and a fourth, and ultimately, if he becomes like Super Bowl MVP, it'll become a first. But
no, I mean, I could see a trade like that for sure. And the other thing about Bobo not stretching the field, DK doesn't really get to stretch the field either. Unfortunately, that offensive line hasn't afforded enough time to let some of those long plays really develop, right? I mean, so usually when they've had something long, it's been a coverage breakdown, not really you got to stand back there and, sling the rock because you had 3.5 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever. Quarterback hurries this year. Geno was one of the highest hurried quarterbacks in the league. He was close to like a 50% hurry rate, which is crazy. So, it only matters if they can stretch the field if you have enough time to get the ball to them.
And do you think that Geno remains the quarterback now with this coach?
Yeah. I mean, he's cheap enough, and there's outs on the contract. I think the guy that you ultimately lose in this scenario is Drew Lock. Probably isn't on the roster. They're probably going to draft one of these quarterbacks because one of them would be around. I think they have the 16th pick. They should be able to get either a Nix or Penix, right? So they probably take a quarterback there. They probably move on from Locke. Locke played well enough that he's probably going to get a decent contract as a backup somewhere. So yeah, you probably draft a guy, let him learn under Geno, and then that way you can pull the trigger whenever you want. Because again, Geno has an out every year of the contract.
Hey, if I was Drew Lock, I would just send everybody the last 2 minutes of the game against the Eagles.
For sure.
Joe Montana, Lock. So it was I mean, it was literally that's about all I would show them. I don't know that I'd show them anything else. And be like, hey, this is what you're getting. That 2 minutes of me.
Yep.
I don't believe that that'll I mean, obviously, that means you'd have to pick up a backup. You could probably say, all right, we're going to get somebody in the second round or the third round because this is a quarterback rich draft. So you might be able to get something second round or third round that could just back up. Uh, but I just, carry the clipboard for a year and learn under Gino.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, but Dad says there's no line this year.
I mean, you do get your tackles back that were great their rookie season, right? So there is that. You have elements, but yeah, you don't have a solid offensive line for sure.
I mean, hold on. You had wasn't he
Abraham
42
Lucas
years old, the one
and
tackle?
Charles Cross. What's
Oh,
that?
I'm talking about who did you have playing with the Eagles? It was Jason Peters.
Yeah, he's not still going to be on the roster.
Yeah,
I
hey,
mean,
listen, he shouldn't have been on the roster this year, but I guess when you're stuck, you're stuck.
well, when you got the injuries that they had, I mean, you just need a body at some point. But yeah, I mean, with all the free agents, also, I mean, there's going to be a lot of change to this team.
Well, I hear you. So, especially, I mean, they got a new coach. There's going to be some changes, anyways. Aren't you guys above the cap right now?
Yeah, I think I want to say it's like 15, something like that. So there's going to be some, cap casualties for sure. Curious to see what the new coaching regime wants to do with Jamal Adams. You don't save a ton by getting him off the roster, but at the same time, he's never healthy. So do you just open up the roster spot? So some of the situations around the team will be kind of interesting to watch, just because, especially in that case, he's been injured outside of the first year. He's been injured really most of the time, and they pumped a lot of money. They lost draft picks for him, for a guy that, unfortunately really hasn't been able to perform.
Well, maybe under the new coach, he'll figure out that he's not going to get hurt this year and all of a sudden play. Especially since he's playing for a contract this year, right?
No, he's got, I think he has one more year after this one.
Oh, got you. So, yeah, well, then maybe he will get dropped. He'll get picked up somewhere, I'm sure. Somebody will take a flyer. If they think you still got some juice left in the tank, they're going to definitely give you a shot. But, well, it'll be interesting, obviously, to see.
Maybe. I mean, the Eagles didn't really give, Penny a shot. They picked him up. They thought he had some juice and then never put him on the field.
Yeah, I don't think that, again, the Eagles love doing that. They love doing that. They love having running backs just
die in
on
the
the
roster.
bench. On the bench. I mean, like I said, Jordan Howard, same situation. Jay Ajayi, same situation. When he came back the second time, when they traded for Jay Ajayi in the Super Bowl run, and they used him frequently. But once he came back, he left and then came back, and he's like, I don't understand. Why aren't you using me? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And ultimately, he was right. He's like, they're not using me. They're not doing anything. Jordan Howard was the same exact situation. All he did was move the line forward. It's like, hey, I'll carry 3 guys on my back and we'll go 4 or 5 yards and then I'll fall down and then it's, 2nd and 5.
Yep.
I don't know. I think those guys are good.
Yeah.
I mean, until he gets hurt, that was the problem with Jordan Howard, is that you were afraid he was going to get hurt all the time, so you couldn't have him do that frequently. But when he would be out there, and the more you gave him the ball, the better he became.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how these running backs typically do, anyways. But I kind of believe this goes with the same thing of the philosophy of the running back in the first place. Running backs are phasing out for the moment.
Yep.
They'll be back again, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the league always kind of has this cycle to it. So I would imagine that they work themselves back in. But yeah, I mean, they're really getting away from it. And if you are having a running back, it's the CMC, it's the dual threat running back, right? That can play receiver well.
Well, I'm waiting for somebody to come back out with the Y formation. 3 running backs in the backfield and
Sure.
2 receivers. Like that worked for a
With a
while.
true fullback in front of him.
Yeah, it was like 2 running backs, and it was like the whole Y formation. I guess you can't do that as much anymore. You could do like more like the T formation in the shotgun.
Yep.
So, but it's I got to imagine though, if somebody came out with that type of offense, that it may work because
Nobody can
everything is
defend it.
so far advanced.
Yep.
Like it's like, hold on. How do I protect this? How do I go? Defend against this now? Like, what
Well,
are we doing?
especially when you figure nobody wants to wrap up. Imagine a Mike Allstott now, because everybody
Oh
just
yeah,
wants to throw a shoulder. Like, that bowling ball would go through every team.
especially now. I mean, you think about that in that Y formation. If you're going to pitch it to the third back and you have 2 all
Yep.
stots going through, or you put one of the guys who's like, yeah, I'm one of the linemen's like, okay, yeah, I'm an eligible receiver, and you have him doing some of the pulling and stuff like that. Like, there you go,
Yep.
you could actually do some damage that way. This goes back to the 4 tight end set. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's like you just beat people up something. You just beat them up,
Oh yeah.
beat them up, beat them up. So, because that's
Well,
what I feel like the tight end is.
especially if you're using like that 3-back set, you got 2 fullbacks ahead, you pull the far guard, right? You just have this wall of monster humans. Right? Could you imagine being the corner or the free safety trying to break down on that?
You
That's
better
where
hope that somebody catches from behind. That's what would have to really take place there.
you're 100% diving at the feet and hoping they just all trip over you.
So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's where this wrapping up and stuff like that. And I feel like that's because defensive guys are smaller. They
Yeah.
they bang you and they hope that you go down. And if you don't go down, that's on them. That's the problem. It's like, okay, well, I didn't wrap them up. I didn't know what to do. Anytime I see the alligator tackle, when somebody grabs a foot and spins, I'm like, wow, somebody remembers what that was like in Pee Wee's. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because that's what they told you to do. Do the alligator tackle. Hold on for dear life and spin. The
Right.
guy is going to have to go down. He ain't got
Either
nowhere
that or
else to go.
someone else catches up either way. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
no, well, and I mean, you almost have to do that at this point because you get in trouble for even getting close to being high, right? I mean, even if you hit the shoulder pad and then you just slide up and brush the helmet, it's a flag. So it's, you basically have to take people's knees out and stuff. It's the lack of wrapping up that makes me mad every time I watch a game, though. Like, you're already there, right? Like, you already had to get your head out of the way. You're already throwing your shoulder. It's not that hard to just also stick your arm out and try and, like, I don't understand the closed shoulder. Just, I'm going to try and, get that Madden hit stick rather than, hey, how about we just wrap up and make the play?
right. I don't know. I guess, like I said, the art of tackling will come back at some point.
I
And
hope
if
so.
a team actually starts to do that more frequently, you'll see them win games. Because
No doubt.
you won't see as many yards after hit. That's really what it comes down to. The yards after the hits. Like, it's how many teams have had that elevate so badly for the offense. I
Sure.
mean,
Well, I
that's
mean,
how
what?
Brock Purdy. That's half of Brock Purdy's yardage.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no
So,
doubt. No doubt. Well, I mean, you guys had that one where you had, 3 guys. You had them bracketed to the outside, and then they took it to the house, right? Against who was it? It was Tampa, right?
yeah, probably. where
So
it
I
was
mean,
just like they hit him and couldn't get him down. They couldn't get him out of bounds.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
come
exactly.
on,
You
guys.
had three defenders there. He was on the outside. He was bracketed to the boundary, and somehow all three guys missed the tackle and couldn't get him out of bounds. And then he it's just like,
And he turned it
how is
back in again.
tackling this bad now? These guys are pros, right? Like they pay them actual money.
Well, you know what? I feel like that became it became an effort situation. The lack of effort is
They
what.
won't be able to go because they win too much.
Yeah,
uh, yep.
exactly. That's exactly correct. There you go. So speaking of winners out there, uh, this weekend we have the first ever flag football Pro Bowl, and
No,
I
they had
love
it
how the
last year.
NFL
They had it
did
last
they
year.
have it last year? I
They
thought
did.
they still played the whole. I mean,
No,
I
no,
didn't
no.
watch it last year, so
Yeah, no, they did the flag football thing last year. Last year was their first year of it, and it was so it was good and bad, right? So it was good in the way that they played harder than they have been playing the Pro Bowl the last 5 or 6 years. Not that that's saying anything, but because the Pro Bowl became a snap the ball and everybody just stands up and like plays patty cake and then they just throw the ball. So I mean, it might as well have been flag football at that point. But so the flag football game was better than that. Uh, I just miss the Pro Bowls of the like 80s and 90s where they actually just played football.
I agree with that. You know, it was where everybody got to play afterwards too, because they did it at the end of the season, not
Yeah,
before the
exactly. It was
Super
after
Bowl.
the Super Bowl. It was in Hawaii. Like it was like this whole thing for it was a true all-star game, right? Like all the stars got to go.
Right.
So it was a lot of guys that played in the Super Bowl still ended up skipping the Pro Bowl, but I mean they were at least eligible to play. But yeah, I mean they played football, like the game mattered. So yeah, it's better than what the game became, but it's flag football, so at best it'll be on in the background. Like I can't see myself really watching a flag football game intently.
No, I hear that. I absolutely hear that. See, and this is where I feel like the NFL could actually do some stuff worthwhile. Like they could this I know that they have both the Mannings out there doing this, and I can imagine that the moment that the Kelseys retire, they're going to have the Kelseys doing this,
Sure.
and it's you know, but I feel like they could break this into four teams, and everybody, everybody play each other, and then the two best records go up against, you count every point and all this other stuff so that there isn't all the tiebreakers are already set in place, blah, 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 blah. And ultimately, the winner, the two best teams play that fifth quarter. So it's like you're playing one quarter, 15 minutes, flag football. And then the next two teams go up against each other. And then, got to have a little bit of a break because then you have to have the one team that did play just now against the team that didn't play just now. You know what I mean? And, the other two teams then play. And then you have to have another, halftime, so to speak. But ultimately, you'd be playing it quickly. Like this would still be 3 hours, 15 minutes. All right, those teams get off. Yeah, and then 15 minutes, those teams get off. And we got a few minute break, and then 15 minutes you have some band play. And league wide, all the fans that attend a game can sign up and possibly win the coaching position, win to be a coach of one of the four teams. And
That'd be entertaining.
four fans get to be the coach of their individual team. You get to do a draft on Friday, or you get everybody out there. So you get to do the draft on Friday where you're picking players and stuff like that for your team. And then you have the Saturday where they have the skills thing, and then Sunday you actually have the games. And I think that would be it would make it fun. It would make it fun. And
It'd be entertaining.
the winning team gets $100,000 per player.
Yeah. No, I think it'd be entertaining.
I've been saying this for a couple of years now. They finally did listen to me with when I was saying, hey, listen, it needs to go back to flag. It needs to go to flag football. Flag football is what it should be. But this is a way to engage
on what
the
they were playing.
fans.
Yeah. No, based on the way they were playing the padded game the last, really 10 years, it needed to be flagged because it was basically two-hand touch anyway.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know. That's why they don't pay me the big bucks, because all these great ideas I have, Mom, all these great ideas they don't listen to.
So I guess if you were to do that, you bring the winning coach back, right? Let them try and defend their title. You get three other new coaches the next year.
No. No. You wouldn't have to do that. Maybe after 5 years, you could have the Tournament of Champions.
Sure,
Every 5 years, you bring the 4 winners back.
That would work.
And have that be the 5th year, because ultimately the coach also wins $100,000.
Sure. Okay.
So
get him
if you
a
drafted
cool,
the right
Pro Bowl
people,
champion. Get him a cool Pro Bowl championship ring.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And $100,000, which would be great. I mean, I firmly believe that would be. I mean, that's a lot of money for a lot of people.
For sure, I'd sign up for
as
that.
McLovin gets to join us.
Hey, did you see that? 2021 state champions, baby. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm in my high school glory days, if you didn't notice that already.
I'm telling you, you weren't in high school in 2021.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, look.
No, he was.
I graduated, but I'm still
he is a Cowboys fan. He was 100% still in high school in 21.
I don't feel my hands.
We will all go down together. So we were just talking about ideas for the Pro Bowl moving forward, and I was expressing how I thought that they could. The NFL is missing out on an opportunity to be able to connect with fans by if you league wide chose 4 fans to be the coaches of the Pro Bowl teams, 4 Pro Bowl teams, play flag football. You actually, on Friday, you get to have a draft where you're drafting your players, for your flag football team. Saturday, They have the skills competition and stuff like that, where the coaches get to, coach their team in the skills competition. And then on that Sunday, they get to coach their team, and these teams all play against each other. You have like a round robin. And then at the end of the round robin, you have the 2 best teams with the most amount of points and blah, blah, blah play for the championship. And the winner of that championship, everybody on that team wins $100,000, including the coach.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. No,
I'd sign
seriously.
up as coach.
I'm all about that. I will have my name in there 15 times. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, you have to go to the game to get your name in. You have to buy a ticket to get into the game.
But I want to make sure that when you do that the money that comes from all that goes to some charity, like a good charity, right? So that would be another way.
No.
I'm saying, like, for the people that pay, like, if you pay a ticket to try to be a coach, they can't donate a portion of that at least, or something.
No. You get entered. You get entered.
Your idea.
Yeah, you get entered by buying a ticket to go to a game.
Okay.
So you don't have to go to the game. So listen, for instance, they were selling tickets for 45 cents over in Carolina. You could have bought 10 tickets. You would have gotten 10 entries. It cost you $4.50 plus fees.
Yeah.
And you would have you would have been able to get your name on the register 10 times.
But where would
So
the money? Well, where would the proceeds of all the money that they raise from that? Where would that money go to? Is it just going to go to the NFL
it's
and go into
yeah,
their
because you're buying a
coffers?
ticket to an actual game.
Yeah.
You're buying a ticket to an actual game. So it's the revenue from the ticket to the game is still part of the revenue for the game. That's how
Oh,
you
okay.
get
I
to enter
thought it might
in.
have been separate where you already bought your ticket to the game,
Yeah, you're
and then
not
you
buying.
could have paid
You
an
can't.
additional
You can't.
amount for the option to get into being a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it where you could enter like one time, and then if you want to raise money for a specific charity or whatever, you'd be able to kind of do it like
I mean,
that.
there's got to
I
be a
think
way that
that
they can do that. They can maximize it and really, I mean, make it more of a community thing, which then ties into Pro Bowl because then you're getting all these other, organizations come. I mean, there's a whole way you can make that. I like what you're doing. I like the concept you got, and I think there's a way you can even maybe make it go farther by doing that, by getting other organizations involved, right? I mean, you can make a whole thing out of the damn thing, honestly.
hey, maybe that's the way to do it. You win $100,000, $50,000 goes to the fan, and $50,000 goes to their favorite charity.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's ways you can look. I will tell you right now. Even if you give me $50,000, I'm a very happy person. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a very
If you get
happy
to write
person.
off that $50,000 with $50,000 in charity, I'm
You're
also
right.
very happy too, because that means I
solve
ain't
your
paying
whole
no
tax
taxes on that
problem.
50 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't get this on any other program or any other podcast.
That's right.
We are literally solving your tax issue if you win that kind of money. Literally.
There you go. There you
Well,
go.
Once
I mean,
In the meantime,
we're at the top
we
of
are
the
at
hour.
the top of the hour.
But after the break, definitely got to talk to you about Dan Quinn moving on.
Oh yeah, let's
So-
talk about that misery or happiness.
All right.
Whatever you want.
So we will be back in just a few moments as we try to get Jay quiet during this commercial break so that we can find out exactly how he feels about his defense now that Dan Quinn is gone. Back shortly. I mean, you can see right now without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this
Oh,
team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get it each.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And welcome back to the second hour of Coast to Coast. We have Jay McLovin with us now, and he's going to tell us all of the wonderful things that the Washington Commanders are getting with their ex-defensive coordinator and new head coach of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn. Go ahead and take it away, Jay.
Absolutely. Pax, I thank you for that introduction. It's always so eloquently done. Let me tell you something. Here's the way I look at Washington. On the surface, I was kind of thinking like, man, I wish they could have got something a little bit more innovative, a little bit younger, a little bit more in the nuances. But then I thought to myself, if you take out the playoff game, unfortunately, if you take out that playoff game that we screwed the pooch against Green Bay in, and if you look at what Dan Quinn did with the defense over the regular season, and if you just look at that body of work, not the playoff, but just the body of work about what he did over the regular season, and then you compare that up, which I thought he did a masterful job. I think we all knew the Cowboys had a damn good defense throughout the regular season up until the point where we got into the playoffs. And that's a whole nother matter. But if you look at the regular season, what he did, we all thought they had a really, really good defense. And I look at a guy like this, and I also know that he has had the pedigree of getting to a Super Bowl, so he does have a little bit of that on his resume. But then you look at it, you get a really good offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy, and you know what, he has the experience in the Super Bowl as well. And if those two guys, if they're able to come together and have an expert at defense and an expert at offense, you put those guys together along with the defensive coordinator, and I'm sure Dan will search that out to a really good level. This could be a good thing. It could be, right? It's going to come down to how well they draft and things of that nature, how well they develop the guys that they currently have and what they do with what they currently have. But, on the surface, it doesn't look bad. Again, everything on paper looks good. It's going to see how it translates onto the field. But with this new ownership group in hand, I don't know, man. The jury is out for me, but I'm not saying like, I think it's okay. I think you've got a lot of experience on this team on both sides of the ball. And it's just going to be, can they pull it all together and make it work? But on the surface, I don't like Dan Quinn as a head coach, but at the same time, I know what he's done and I know what he can do on defense. And it could be a good thing. In all honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a lot with Micah Parsons. He's done a lot with the development of Bland before even when Trey Diggs went down and that stuff. So I think Dan can develop that defense. Is this going to be, who are they going to bring in for the defensive coordinator at that point, and how they will? Really, it's going to be how well they draft and how do they utilize that draft. I think. And
I was going to let you keep going. I just was going to keep shut and just see how much. I figured eventually Dan Quinn would be like the worst hire ever in the NFL. He started, it could be. We'll see actually how he does. He's really going to stink.
And here's the thing. Honestly, I think it all depends on the situation. I think if Dan Quinn would have went to a team. See, I'm really putting a lot on Bieniemy. I'm thinking that Bieniemy is going to get this thing going, right?
He's not.
And I know that Dan Snyder's out. Because here's the deal with Washington. For a long time, they've had a stigma, just like the Cowboys have had a stigma. They've had a stigma of terrible coaches, terrible this, that, and the other. But, now they have a new ownership in. And I don't know this new ownership well enough, because this is only their first year, for crying out loud. So I don't know the ownership well enough to see if they're going to do the right things and let Dan do the right things, right, and stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see all that unfolds. And then who are they going to bring as a defensive coordinator? I mean, and then what are they going to do with Sam Howell? I don't think Howell's the right guy. So I think Dan needs to go back to the drawing board and get another quarterback out of it. And can they trade up to see if they can get – because this is a deep class. It's a deep class, and God knows Washington fans damn near at the bottom. So they should have no problems moving up and getting one of those top 5 quarterbacks, which either one of the top 5 is better than Howell, what they currently
have. I'm with you there.
I would agree with that. But
you think Bieniemy stays? You don't think he gets picked up somewhere else?
Well, this is NFL. That's always a possibility. I mean, no, seriously, it's always a possibility.
No, for sure.
Right? I mean, it could. It can happen. I think, you know what, though? I think if it was going to happen, though, we would have heard something in the news about him interviewing at other places for that type of thing. And it's pretty quiet over there. So I'm going to say no, only because it seems pretty quiet right now over that land. And I think if Dan comes in, that they would have already had a conversation about Eric working with Dan.
Yep. So you think they get a DC, or do you think he takes on that role basically?
Oh, I hope he gets a DC. I don't know if I'd want Dan to stretch him so far out. I think he needs to find a defensive coordinator that follows the type of philosophy that he wants and find the right guy for that. But I think there's a lot of assistant coordinators out there that I'm sure that wouldn't mind coming and working with him and becoming a part of his tree or whatever.
Sure.
Because he still is a really good defensive mind that you can learn from if they're trying to improve their craft.
He turned your defense around without having a lot of pieces. Like that was a coaching change for sure. Because I mean, that defense really wasn't very good. He came in, didn't necessarily add a bunch of pieces or anything, and that defense went from terrible to one of the top units in the league.
Well, if you knew anything before when Dan first got there, what was the biggest issue with Cowboys defense? Does anybody know? I know the answer, but do y'all know the answer? I'm sure you probably do. What was their worst weakness? Okay, Pags. Now, see, that's just a fan response. I need an actual intelligent response there. Maybe a little bit deeper. Go a little deeper into it. What part sucked the most?
I would have to say that the cornerbacks, that they were giving up big plays.
That's what
I was thinking. I was thinking linebacker play wasn't great.
And you're almost there. I'm thinking more defensive tackle because they could not do shit with the run defense. Those dudes were getting run on 9 times out of 10, and they were coming right up. I know. Do you know how many times I watched those guys come up the middle and we didn't stop them up the middle? And whose responsibility? That's your defensive tackles and or your linebackers. And if you want to stun up a safety. I
just remember your linebackers couldn't cover anything.
I mean, that was a whole nother issue, right? I agree. I'm not saying that we had the best corner system, but that's a whole nother issue. Again, that if your edges are getting pressure on the quarterback, he's not making the best throws in the world. Sure. Or if you're stopping the run, you know what I'm saying? It was always that front 7, or even really the front 4 or the front 2 in the middle that really drove me batshit crazy. Pardon my French when it came to the run.
Well, on the plus side, this is a network TV, so you're not going to get in too much trouble.
Good, because my French isn't all that great. Sometimes it's good, not today.
But so obviously there's an opening over there in Cowboy Nation for a defensive coordinator, and I had heard, through the grapevine, that Jerry Jones was going all in this year. So in the process of going all in, he's decided to take on that defensive coordinator's role. He is going to be your DC.
No, Bo. That's not funny. You're laughing over there.
That is amazing.
No, Bo, look. You're see, this is the problem I have with this show. You're over there laughing like you think Pax is telling a joke. I'm over here like pissed off because I'm pretty sure Pax might be right.
No, exactly. No, I'm actually pretty sure he is right, which is why I'm laughing. Because that is the kind of dysfunction we're used to.
Well, I mean, think about it. You go out, you get, who was it? Was it Brian Shanahan? I guess it's one of the Shanahan brothers. I think it was Brian. See, that's how non-involved he is with the Cowboys. I can't remember the guy's first name. I'm pretty sure it's Brian. Brian Shanahan is our offensive coordinator. Do you ever think we hear about Brian Shanahan? No. And that's what scares me about the defensive coordinator. So then it becomes all the McCarthy show.
I heard that Rex Ryan is available.
I
don't know if I'm opposed to that.
I wouldn't hate that.
Rex
Ryan, bring him back.
He's a great DC. Like I'd take a Rex Ryan as a DC.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You know what? Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Hell, if he might be able to improve upon where Dan left off.
Besides,
maybe our quarterbacks will actually pressure the wide receiver.
How electric would that coaching room be? With McCarthy and Ryan in there just getting after it. I would watch that. Like if that was, one of the HBO specials, I'd tune in.
Don't throw in a corn cob. Don't throw in a corn cob. That corn cob would not stand a chance. Well, even a little bit. So
I actually submitted a request to Jerry Jones that he go out and purchase GPS tracking devices so that we could put them on the cornerbacks so that when they disappeared out of the screen, we knew where they were.
Wow.
That's how mad I am still at that Green Bay Packers game. We just
I mean, they were nowhere to be found. So
they weren't.
You're not wrong.
I think they were eating Packers corn on the cob.
No, that was probably the weirdest game to watch because they were playing so soft that everything underneath was there, but then somehow they also weren't long. Like I don't know, like the ball was snapped and they went and sat down. Like I don't know where they were, but they were never on the screen.
And that's another thing too, which really frustrates me because if you look at previous Cowboys runs in the playoffs, it's typically been the offense where we've stumbled, fumbled, fumbled, whatever. This is honestly the first time that I've seen where really the defense was horrible, and I could actually blame the defense for a lot of that.
I just have like a clarification. Is it really a run if it's one and done?
Oh, damn. A little early, bub. A little early. The wound is still fresh. I'm still bleeding. Calm down.
You're still bleeding? All right. I got you.
So let me throw this name at you for an interesting possibility of defensive coordinator. Bill Belichick.
He wouldn't take that. He wouldn't take. This is the same guy that one of the
Listen,
GM.
there's no more coaching positions right now. All the coaching positions are closed.
He takes.
But do you think Bill is literally going to let his pride go down to a defense? I think he would sit out a season before.
He's definitely sitting out ahead of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. So he was willing to take a head coaching job just to stay on with the Patriots. He said, "I'll give up the GM spot. Just let me stay on as coach." Man, that wasn't even good enough for them. They said, "Nope, you're all the way out of here."
Yeah.
And now, do you think Do you think he would go down to the defensive coordinator?
No, that is wildly different because could you imagine being the GM going in to New England? Like you're going to have no say, right? This guy's been there for 20 years. He's going to go over your head every chance he gets. Like there's no way.
You know what, though? That's like asking Tom Brady to go be on the practice squad. Just stay with us for a little longer on the practice squad.
I mean, Brady might have done it. I don't know.
Oh, man. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as ridiculous as you guys think it is. Do I think he's going to do it? No, I don't believe it. But I don't believe that it's as ridiculous as a thought process as you guys think. He would wind up, it would be so much less responsibility. He would stay in football for a minute, you know what I mean, for this year, and ultimately be the prime candidate wherever he decided to go.
Well, do you think
wherever?
The only way I could see that, like if he was going to do that, right? So say he becomes their DC. The only way I could see him actually taking that position is if he, behind closed doors, had a deal with Jones and was like, hey, we're forcing McCarthy out after this season, regardless of how it goes down. He's gone. I'm the guy. That's the only way I could see that potentially coming together.
That would be hysterical. And then the Cowboys win the Super Bowl and they still have to fire McCarthy.
Yes.
That would be ridiculous.
It would be hilarious, but I could see that scenario playing out.
Absolutely.
Do you think it would be a McCarthy firing and then a Bill Belichick elevation to head coach of the Cowboys? I can see that.
Yeah. That would be, especially if they won it all. Like that would be the most hilarious Cowboys thing to do.
You know what?
And then ultimately the following year, the Cowboys would go 3-14
100%.
under Bill Belichick.
Absolutely, because you're going to lose so much talent.
You know what, though? But I think everybody would say, you know what? We don't care. Just get us a damn Super Bowl.
Well, no,
we'll figure it out from 3-13. We'll figure it out. We'll rebuild. We'll go to rebuild mode. We'll pull some trades. Maybe we'll get the Herschel Walker trade in there, and we'll become the next big dynasty again. Who knows? We don't know. But at this rate, and I've said this before, at this rate, you give me a Super Bowl, I don't care where we go. Just get a damn Super Bowl. That way we'll have 6. That way we'll be tied with everybody else that's in the lead. And then we can say, hey, well, when's the last time you got a Super Bowl? I got it last year, so go fuck off. I mean, seriously, that's how happy I would be. I don't care if I'm 3-13 the next year because I'm Super Bowl champions coming off. We're good.
Yeah, being a Navy guy, you know this saying. This is why, this is why, this is why, effing why.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know the best.
So
Well,
that's a
no, that's
Navy saying, actually, by the way.
yeah. There's a lot of
So
Navy sayings. Pax, let me
yeah,
ask you a question. When you first stepped on board the ship, did they ever ask? And you were a fresh kid out of boot camp, right? Did anybody?
no,
Did you
I went to A school for a while.
well, you know what I'm saying, right? I say fresh out of boot camp.
Right.
I'm
So
including A school in there, right? I just, yeah. So you get on board the boat. It's your first duty station ever. The first time you ever step foot on a damn boat. You get on there, you meet your LPO, and he gives you the lay of the land. Did they ever tell you, hey, also did you go down there and get a BT punch?
no.
Oh, good times. Good times.
Yeah. So we would. I know that you probably got BT punched all the time. We
No,
would
no, I
have.
didn't. But I will tell you this. I will tell you this. You know, I was a radioman. Pags, what was your job again?
I was electrician's mate to start, and then I switched over to the IC rate.
Okay, so you went from EM to IC. Okay, I got you.
Correct.
You know, and what year did you come in, by the way?
Say again. I got in
What year?
90.
Okay, so you're one of the few guys that remembers you went across the equator. You got the whole shellback setup. You got all that, right? I mean, you did all that, right? You never went
Yes,
across the equator. You did, right?
I did. I'm a shellback.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So those are great things. Those are great traditions. They don't do them so much anymore. But I do remember when a young McMahon came on board, stepped on board the USS Blue Ridge out there in 7th Fleet, Yokosuka, back in 1993. And I knew what a punch was, you know, because I'm familiar with punches, you know, and stuff like that. And I didn't at that time. I did not know what a boiler tech was. I did not know. And but I had a really big LPO. I mean, he was a big guy, big arm, Pags. The man's arms were so big he had to cut his sleeves just to fit his arm into the damn thing. That's how big he was. Huge man. And he goes, I need you to go down there and get me a BT punch. I was like, all right, man, I don't know what fucking BT punch is, but I'm gonna go down there and do what he said because this guy's really large. And I went down there, down into the engine room, and I said, excuse me, sir, my LPO sent me down here to come get a BT punch from you. And that dude turned around, and he was just as big, if not bigger, than my damn LPO. He turned around and he put everything he had into my face. And when I tell you, literally, I went back about 3 feet and Pags. You know how they had the phones and they had the two little prongs that came off the phone. My face went into the prongs, and I had to get surgery.
Oh man!
They had to pull out surgery, but I had to get stitches put into my face because the dude hit me. I turned around, went back, and I slammed into the phone. And they said, "Hey, I wasn't a petty officer. I was a seaman at that time." I said, "Seaman, man, what are you doing up here in sick bay?" I said, "Well, I slipped and fell, and I hit the phone, and I need to get some stitches because I sure as hell walking inside got flushed."
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into our spot about CTE and the real effects.
The real effects. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize. He got me on the whole Navy thing, and I started reminiscing.
So yeah, so in our case, since we're going to tell some Navy stories here for a minute, so E Division, which is what I was in, went up against R Division all the time. We had the sounded security watches on the ship. Our division was, they were like the fire controls and stuff like that. They made sure everything was working properly and such. So there was a lot of like that stuff. And their office or their shop was just down a little bit from our shop. And, you know, we had to travel around in pairs because you never wanted to be caught alone by the R Division. Or the R Division never wanted to get caught alone by the E Division. And if you did get caught, you would get pink bellied. And for all of you that don't know what a pink belly is, I'm not. And then, like it's just, imagine just having no shirt and everybody just slapping your belly and your chest nonstop for about a
That's what I
good
was
10
figuring.
minutes.
Good old body glove.
Exactly. And then we would spray paint, not with the easy spray paint that would come right off. This was like an oil-based spray paint on
Oh
E.
yeah.
If you were caught by the E division, or they would give you the R from the R division. And I was always really good at not getting caught. Always really good. They would just not be able to catch me whatsoever till I had got stuck. They got me stuck on a 4 o'clock in the morning sound and security watch. And
Mm.
everybody from our division got up. And when I went in to go sign, because you had to sign out with the R division, the watchmaster from our division, and everybody from our division is there. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
toast now. I'm
Yeah,
toast now.
exactly. I can see the train a coming.
and of course now when you're caught, like I'm just ready to take it. I'm just like, okay. And they're like, you're not going to try to get away? I'm like, get away from what? Where am I going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's happening? They're like, oh, really? You're not going to try to get away? Hey, and then you start, the mental aspect, then you start to try to get away, which is what they want. And then ultimately, like I said, they had like 12 guys in there. Uh, I had an R on me that stayed on. Like it took like 4 days to scrub off because you can't take it off. You ain't scrubbing it off when you got a pink belly. It
Hey,
was
Bo, let me tell you how that really went. Our division said to Pags, hey, you're not going to try to get away. And that's where the Pags signature, yeah, came into play.
yeah, it wasn't there. It wasn't there at that time.
Oh, man, I would
Um,
have loved to have been a fly on that wall because I would have loved to give you a pink belly. That'd be great.
yeah, so that was, and then of course, if you became a shellback, there was the whole initiation of becoming a
Oh, yeah.
shellback is also a lot of fun. I actually, it's funny because I'm hanging up some of the pictures around the apartment, and I found my old shellback
Nice.
certificate.
You know,
So
so yeah, so when I got on board that ship, it was like around January, and our first big cruise was a southern swing from Japan down to Australia, and that's when we crossed the equator. When my LPO comes to me one day, says, "Man, there's 4 rolls of toilet paper. Don't tell nobody I give it to you. Put 2 on your knees and 2 on your elbows before you go to bed tonight. Here's some duct tape. Put it back in the gear locker when you're done." I shit you not, I didn't know what he meant because I had the top rack, which there's a whole other story about how I got the top rack, which is kind of funny, but I won't tell you it here today. But yeah, literally, I duct taped my elbows, my kneecaps. I was fully ready to go. I had all the toilet paper. The reason why they put all that damn toilet paper because they yank you out of your rack, not step out of your rack. They pull you down. So when you slam about 7 feet down onto a hard metal deck, you realize, oh, that's why I got toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then they make you climb up the stairwell on your hands and knees. And so, they're serrated. The steps are serrated. So by the time you get to the actual top of the deck, which that's at the end of the ceremony, when you throw all your clothes over into the ocean, that the toilet paper has been literally like, there's nothing left. It's just all gone. And so you go down into the engine, or you go back down into your bay, and all you got on is underwear. That's it. That's all you got, underwear. Everything else is in the ocean. And you got Vegemite, and you got hot sauce burning down your back. This is the worst 2 hours of waiting for a shower in my life.
So, and not only that, in on our ship at the time, we had the CW4 bosun mate with the highest amount of service time in the Navy. So he was the bosun of the Navy, and he
Yeah.
was the one that got to play King Neptune, and he had this guy next to him who played Davy Jones. And I won't tell you what you had to do as part of the initiation
Oh, it was
with
a
Davy
lot.
Jones. There was a lot of different things that I just you don't really tell people about. You just because there's certain traditions that should still remain unspoken about.
Oh, yeah.
There
Oh,
was
yeah.
just it was at the time where they said, hey, listen, if you don't want to go through this,
Go to the
you don't
library.
have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to. But expect that if you're going to go through this, that you are signing off on some hazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you
Boy,
got
was this
hazed.
some hazing. I mean, it literally gives hazing the whole new definition. Whole new definition. But I will tell you this, though, man. The one thing I love about it is, Pags, is that my grandfather went through it. My other grandfather went through it. I went through it. And it's one of the few things that I felt connected with my grandparents and stuff like that. I felt really connected. We all went to the same ceremony. And so it's really cool. I mean, it's a shame they don't have those traditions like that anymore, but you were lucky if you got the experience.
Exactly. Excuse me a few moments, guys. I got to disappear for a half a minute.
That's okay.
No worries.
That's what she said.
Oh,
So,
man.
Bo, man, you said there's awards coming out soon.
Say that again?
I said you seen the NFL awards is getting ready to come out soon.
Yeah. I mean, the one that shocked me was TJ Watt not getting Defensive Player of the Year. Right? Myles Garrett gets it.
Yeah.
But statistically, TJ Watt was better everywhere. So,
right.
It lets you know that voting process is just kind of dumb. But not to say that Myles Garrett isn't a stud. He absolutely is. But when you look at the stats throughout the season, TJ Watt was the difference maker all year.
Yeah.
So for him not to win it, I didn't love that. Lamar realistically getting the MVP, that makes sense, right? It's a regular season award.
Right.
CMC winning Offensive Player of the Year just lets you know that the MVP is a quarterback award.
Well, it was like what we talked about the other day on this show, where you figured, okay, the quarterback's going to get the MVP, and then usually a running back or a position player, whoever had the best whatever, would then grab the offensive player. So, I mean, it falls in alignment with what we were talking about the other day.
No, exactly. And it's also why you can't see a position player really get the MVP anymore. I mean, not that they wanted a ton anyway, let's be honest. But, I mean, at this point, I haven't seen anybody other than a quarterback even really have a shot. So, but yeah,
I guess I missed that part. Who actually wound up getting coach and assistant coach?
I actually didn't see who won Coach of the Year.
Did they even announce it yet? I thought they didn't announce it until Friday.
That's what I was thought. I thought it was Friday, but I wasn't 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I think they do all the announcements on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already know the other ones, though.
Like, who do you think? Pags? Who do you have? Who do you think is the assistant? Because I have it between Slovic and Campbell. Or not Slovic and Campbell. Slovic and Ben Johnson. And I think you can make a good case for either one.
I think it's Ben Johnson.
You think it's going to be Ben Johnson?
That's what I was figuring.
Okay. And so then do you think Dan Campbell then walks away with coach?
Man, that's a tough one.
I still think D'Amico should get that one.
That's who I think has a really good shot, is D'Amico. Because he did more with that team who wasn't supposed to do anything. Now I'm impressed with what Dan Campbell was able to do, but that wasn't this year, right? Like, that's been growing.
Campbell was more of a progression of good coaching, where I think D'Amico was just, from 0 to 100,
exactly,
right up off the rip, which was
exactly, and that's why I think D'Amico gets it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the first time ever. It's the first time ever a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback ever made it to the playoffs. That guarantees you win. The only other, like I said, the game between them and Cleveland, the winner of that game was going to be Coach of the Year. I know it had nothing to do with the regular season, but that's really what it came down to. I knew whoever won that game was going to become Coach of the Year, and that was Houston. Houston and D'Amico Ryans gets it.
Yep.
I'm really curious to see where Houston is, 3 to 4 years from now with, maybe a little bit more talent and experience put into that lineup.
No, they'll be
I think they're going to be formidable.
They'll be a problem.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even next year, I think they're going to be.
Right.
I think they're going to take that step forward because they actually have decent draft capital this year. So
Right.
I mean,
and they didn't lose any of their coordinators. Yeah, they didn't even lose any of their coordinators in the hiring process. So that just tells you they're going to have that continuity coming back.
Any chance D Hop goes home?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think so.
I would like to see him there.
I mean, I would too, but I don't think so.
Well,
With the three guys that they already have, why would you bring D'Amico back other than if he was going to retire to sign up to a one-day retirement contract so he retires a Texan? I don't know if there's a spot there for him. With the three wideouts that they already have that are off the charts, I don't know why you would bring him back unless he's willing to take on a vet minimum, which I don't think he's willing to do that. I don't know why you would bring him back. To me, it would be so.
He does have another year where he's at.
Right.
So, I mean, you'd have to trade for him, but
I don't think
he actually still has a lot of talent. Like if you get him the ball, it's something that the Titans couldn't do. But if you could get him the ball, like he has a lot to offer still. He's not that true number one anymore. But if you had him as this is how I think he can extend his career. If he were to adopt that kind of slot Larry Fitzgerald kind of role, like he could stay in the league for a while yet. Because he could dominate that position.
I just don't know who you're gonna like. How are you? Okay, so if you got three wideouts that could all be number ones, you know, depending on we said it when all the injuries happened, it was like the next guy, and they all did that wide receiver one extremely well. How you want a fourth guy to come in and all of a sudden try? I mean, I think he's fighting for time to get in at that point. I think it's a crowded wide receiving core, and he's just trying to find time.
Sure.
The only way I see D Hop helping them is if one of their wideouts went down and they needed somebody to come in and help. Then you think you bring D'Amico in.
Well, I mean, if you're running a 4 receiver set, I mean,
right.
You know,
but how often are they? But what I'm saying is to justify his pay scale of where what he was willing to accept. How do you just him being the fourth guy, which isn't used very often, coming in?
I don't know. I mean, if you have that level of guys at all 4 positions, you might run it more. And who you covering?
No, yeah. And again, I hear that.
You're going to line him up against a linebacker or a nickel corner, right? Like, I mean, man, I'd watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he would win a lot.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah. I guess you could do that.
I mean, I don't think it goes there. Like, I don't think that's a real scenario. But it would be fun to watch. I think he's going to be retained in Tennessee for this next year anyway. Because they had an out after the one season.
And he's 31 years old, so
yeah,
it's not like he's going to be very sought after.
No, I mean,
but
that's how he does
have some. He does have some stuff left in the tank. I do believe that he is able to keep going a little bit, if he wanted to.
Yeah, as long as
I was doing the calculations on that. If you did a 4 wide receiver set, then you either have to get rid of the tight end or you have to get rid of the running back in order to keep the number at 11.
Correct.
So
you get rid of the tight end.
That's a huge thing to get rid of, though. I mean, that's kind of like your security blanket, whether it be in pass protection or as your short slant out or whatever.
That's what your 4th receiver becomes, though. It kind of takes that role. It's just instead of a tight end going against an outside linebacker, now you have or a nickel corner or whatever. All of a sudden, that would be D Hop, right? And
I think, and I see you doing the 4 wide receiver sets.
Yeah.
I just don't see the frequency of it being all that great. or at least great enough to justify bringing in D'Amico and maybe what his pay scale would be. If his pay scale is vet minimum, okay, let's do it. Let's make it happen. But then it would come down to what does a contract fit the usage?
For sure. Well, I mean, it just depends on what your offensive philosophy is, right? But
right.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the route that you'd go because you would keep your, you'd keep your running back options, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, unless you were doing an empty set, I guess. They don't run a lot of those, but if you did an empty set, you keep your tight end.
Well, and then in theory, you could also have the running back. If you have a good blocking running back, he could take up where the tight end left. If he didn't have a tight end, he could slide up and pick up that guy, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, you can make it work. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to make that work.
Yeah.
Well, especially because you had mentioned that every one of them gotten hurt at one point. So you're not going to need to do that. You're going to wind up having only 3 wide receiver sets because somebody's always hurt.
True.
I mean, you're right. I mean, literally, Dell, Brown, all of them went down with the exception of Nico. Nico's out there like the lone wolf carrying the load. Between him and Dalton Schultz. Which I still think, amazingly enough, they did not really utilize Dalton Schultz as much as I thought they would. When he was with the Cowboys, that was like Dak's number 2 read. After CD, he went right over to Dalton, and that's how that all played out. And then he goes to the Texans, and he probably slides down to the 4th, 5th read, maybe, with all the talent that he had up until the point, like you said, where Tank Dell and Brown and Noah Brown go down, and then of course he slides up.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're changing their entire team still, and they just made it to the playoffs, and likely is going to win Coach of the Year. So I'd be willing to bet that maybe they're not doing any of that at all, and we're going to wind up seeing whatever team they want to put out there because, again, they get paid a lot of money and we don't.
There is that.
I mean, but when I look at that Texas team, I mean, I just think they're lacking the experience, which I know they're going to get as they go along. And I think they maybe could put 1 or 2 more key pieces on that. I think the offense is good. I think 1 or 2 key pieces on that defense to help improve the blitzing could really make that team, maybe get another defensive end to complement Will Anderson. And I think you're looking at some serious Crisco over there.
Yeah.
Maybe. So real quick, I might as well ask you right now in terms of since it all just happened just a few minutes ago, who do you believe would be the front runner for the defensive coordinator's position of the Cowboys?
Man, I haven't even given that any thought at all. I mean, I definitely know Mark McCarthy is going to want somebody similar to Dan Quinn. I don't know if you're going to go youth or if you're going to go a little bit older. But off the top of my head, Jesus, I would try to maybe look at possibly San Francisco's coordinator or position coach. You're not going to get the quarterback, but maybe look at the position coach and see if you want to elevate them up. I'd have to put some thought into that. I think they're going to go for a position coach. I don't know if you're going to necessarily. I don't think any of the top teams that have the great defensive coordinators or that didn't get picked up for head coaching, if they're just going to want to come over to the Cowboys and leave where they are. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. So I think you're looking at a position coach of some sort to elevate. Do they elevate within their the core group of position guys that they have, right?
Or do you try and steal Gus Bradley from the Colts? Right? Because that we've already seen the transition from Gus Bradley to Dan Quinn before. So you'd be able to you would think that transition could work fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought the Colts did extremely well on defense, going, from where they were. I'm looking at, I mean, would somebody out of the Miami tree slide over?
Yeah, and not for nothing. I just had to bring this up just because I'm sitting here. Are you talking about the Piston Cup because they cut Lightning McQueen? Like, listen, if you're going to try to make a joke, say the right joke. It's the Piston Cup, not the Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup is the NHL. I sit there and I'm trying to figure, like, what do you mean that they cut McQueen from the Lightning?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that there was a guy named McQueen on the Lightning. And then I'm saying Lightning McQueen. Why does that name sound familiar? Because that Lightning McQueen, ka-chow. I remember because I got kids, cars. It would be the Piston Cup.
It's always funny watching some of the YouTube comments come in from your page.
All I know is
exactly.
Pat gets really aggressive at times.
Right? Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but listen, if you're going to tell a joke,
at least nail the punchline.
Yeah, get it right. Like, listen, the Stanley Cup. I'm like the NHL. Like, I don't know if I'm a queen on the Lightning. I'm usually pretty good on all this stuff. But yeah, now watch him actually come out and tell me, hey, yeah, there is a McQueen on the Lightning, and he was just cut.
Right.
And that makes me look even more like a fool. So, but I think he's talking about the Piston Cup. And Lightning McQueen is, I didn't know that Cars 5 was about to come out. Or maybe it's Cars 4. I don't know. My kids are too old now. So.
I know this sounds crazy, but I don't, I wouldn't even, I would love for Mike McCarthy to reach back out to Brian Flores and see if he wanted to take over our spot. I know I'm sorry. I like Brian. He's young. He's innovative. He's done well on the developmental side with Miami. If you don't understand that, Brian Flores still has an imprint on that team. I know it's McDaniel's team now, but he still has an imprint on that team. I wouldn't mind if Brian, and I've been lobbying for Brian Flores for a long period of time, and it's kind of gone on deaf ears, at least with the Cowboys. And I keep asking them to do it, but nobody's done it. I wouldn't be mad if they brought him over. Or even that guy from the Bengals defense. What's that dude's name? It's on the top of my. You know what I'm talking?
Nope, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Anarupo. I can never say his name right. It's Anarupo, whatever that dude's name is. Lou Anarupo.
Nah, Ian and a John.
Okay.
Ian and a John. It's not that hard.
I'll spell it for you and see if you can do a better job at it. Anarumo. Anarumo? Maybe that's how you say it.
You know what? Hold on. He's
a defensive coordinator for the Bengals. I thought the Bengals had a really good defense, and I wouldn't mind seeing him possibly come over. But ultimately, I would still Brian Flores would be not
Anarumo. Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah.
Lou Anarumo. He's Italian. Yeah, you're making it sound like that he was like had a unique name.
Well, Pags, you should be able to. You're Italian. At least that's what's written on paper. I would think you would kind of know where I was going with that. Jesus.
Now, Embiid wasn't fined $75,000. The Sixers were fined $75,000.
Yeah.
So difference because they did not list Embiid there as even questionable with his knee. They just took him out at the last minute. So he was going to try to go. They said no go, and they got fined $75,000. However, Philadelphia was not fined for violating the player participation policy as the league confirmed the authenticity of Embiid's injury. So they are fining them for just not listing him on the injury report.
I like how B3 Annie says that we need to stop with the Taylor Swift stuff that we hear from football. But you know what? I saw a screenshot the other day where they literally, like the last 5 or 6 games, they looked at how much screen time Taylor Swift gotten. She averages between 30 seconds to a minute and a half, depending on what game you're looking at. So,
when you figure
going to be around for a bit.
When you figure the game is 3 hours long, I feel like there's probably more uproar than there needs to be, right?
Oh, way more. Way more.
Like we're watching dumb commercials longer than they put her on screen. So I feel
Truth of the matter, let's be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, I was listening to the Green Light podcast, and that's with Long, and he said straight out, he's like, if you guys, the people that are crying, the men that are crying that they are showing her too much are guys that are just upset that they will never get her.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't care that they show her. It doesn't mean anything to me. You know
Well,
what I
and
mean?
it's not
That's,
like she's
you know,
actively
ultimately,
seeking
if
that out.
they show her for a few seconds.
you know what though? I still
Right.
like, and I can't
It's the
remember where
camera
I saw
guys that are the problem. It's
Exactly. Yeah, it's the networks that are seeking her out. It's not like she's out there trying to be on camera. Like she's in the suite cheering on football. So now that being said, you know, do they
I
show
want
her
to
a
get
lot?
her at the
Sure.
moment when she's picking her nose or something. Get us
100%.
something good to show. Be like, yeah, like, hey, this is, yeah, she's got like her finger in her ear or something. Like, let's see one of those shots. You
Yeah,
know,
a
where
human
she's like
moment.
fixing her bra. You know what I mean? Like, let's get one of
see,
those shots.
Hey, let
You
me ask
know,
you, have y'all
they're
seen the
always showing
article
her in
though
the
where
best light.
have y'all seen the article where they've compared Travis Kelce's last girlfriend to Taylor Swift? And they were like, how did he leave her for Taylor? Because I guess she had a better body than Taylor. Of course,
Oh, I was going to say, I don't even know who she was. So I don't know.
I can't remember her name, but she's a young African American female, and she is very put together in the right spots.
See, we're already starting the
compared
trend.
to Taylor.
Hey, listen, if you don't want to see Taylor Swift, all you got to do is go to Twitter. They banned all Taylor Swift's things because she is those deep state fake pictures that AI is doing too good of a job of showing her body.
Oh man, this is starting to get off the rails here.
It is. It is.
You want to
It's
see
starting
Jason
to get
over her? That's a scary thought.
Well, that's Frankie for you. You know, Frankie is the leader of the bandwagon crew. You know, Frankie is from New York, but he's a Patriots fan, a Yankees fan, a Lakers fan, and you know, he's one of those guys. Boston Bruins fan.
Oh man, you know, I have told Frankie a couple of times I didn't know there were New Yorkers that supported Boston teams because I've always thought of, you know, as Boston and New York City as being heated rivals towards each other. And so I don't know, it's weird.
You know what? Yeah, one more thing that I felt like we should talk about while we got just a few more minutes and get off of football for a half a second. So Doc Rivers had his second game as coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. And they went to Portland. Of course he caught the L.
Of course he caught it.
So it's you know, he got the L. Damian Lillard goes back to Portland and they say smack, 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 smack. They beat him down.
Maybe that's a good landing spot for Kadarius Toney. That way they can stop catching L's.
They let go of Budenholzer to bring Doc Rivers in. I mean, you gotta tell me, you can't tell me that's
so far 0-2.
Yeah, just to go 0-2. I wonder if Giannis still has that same confidence in the Milwaukee Brass as he did when they brought in Rivers.
So, but
I don't know, losing is a horrible thing.
The game-winning shot against the Blazers was taken by Lopez, but it was meant for Lillard. So Lillard had the opportunity. Lillard was supposed to have the opportunity for the game-winning shot in Portland for the Bucks, but instead they gave it to somebody else, and he pooped the bed.
So you got a guy whose nickname is Damian Dalla in his hometown with all the momentum on his side, and you don't give him the rock?
He's not. It's not his hometown. Damian Lillard's actually from.
No, I mean
Philadelphia,
hometown in terms of that's the only NBA team he's ever played for, home like that. Not where you know, I don't mean like that, but that's his home. He's his home forever.
Yep.
And you don't give him the rock there? You don't think he's gonna knock that down?
I think you know, worst case it would have been the same outcome. But I would have given him the opportunity.
I probably would have gone to overtime and they still would have lost. But even still, I mean, I love the fact that Doc has taken over that team and really has shown them how to win in a proper way.
Yeah. Well, at least they got a guy out that you know went in at almost a 750 So, get that guy out. You don't need that kind of winning. Let's bring Doc in and bring it back down to reality.
Well, and not only that.
It's not that Portland is, Portland is they're still trying to figure out who they are. I mean, for crying out loud, Scoot Henderson, their lottery pick, was spending time back in the G League where he came from, trying to figure out his issues. This should have been a slam dunk to get his first win as a Milwaukee Bucks coach, and they can't get it. I'm just saying. It's Celtics all day, every day coming out of the East. I don't know who's going to stop the Celtics coming out of the East.
Well, it'll depend. It'll depend because there are some rumors that they're going to blow up the Heat. And if they blow up the Heat, there is a good possibility that there could be a return to Philly from one James Butler.
Really?
That'd be interesting.
Wow.
That would be interesting.
I mean, damn. But Embiid still has to be healthy. Bring Jimmy over.
Of course. Absolutely, of course.
Jimmy Buckets is.
But you put Jimmy Buckets on the floor now with Embiid and Maxey, and I think we become the team to beat.
I would say so. Because you got Butler out there on the wing, you got Maxey doing the distribution, you got Embiid as long as he stays healthy, dealing with the defensive side and the oh Jesus, that could be the biggest thing for Maxey, the biggest problem or the biggest issue is can Maxey get the ball to the right people at the right time and do a well ball distribution to keep everybody fully involved. That would be the biggest problem for them at that point. And I'm pretty sure that chemistry can be developed.
Yeah.
I'm sure it could. I'll
tell you, Pax, if that happens, man, hey, listen, I fully expect to see a lot of Philly sports guy out there because that really, you're right, that really could be that 1, 2, 3, 4 punch that you guys have been looking for. And don't you still have?
I think it would be important.
What's that other guy you had?
Tobias Harris.
There you go.
Tobias Harris.
You still have Tobias Harris, right?
So yeah, but he would wind up being the trade to go down to Miami. They would have to get rid of him.
And that's okay. If that's what it takes, okay.
I would trade Tobias Harris for Jimmy Buckets every day and twice on Sunday.
Twice on Sunday.
Well, listen, guys, we are at the top of the hour.
Just came across before we jump off here. Ravens announced Zach Orr as their new DC.
Oh yeah, that actually we announced that at the beginning of the show. Yes, we did. We mentioned that.
I gotcha.
So
Bo was taking
that they were going to elevate him.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right. It just popped across as the update. I was like, oh shit.
Hey, Bo, there's no sleeping on the workforce.
It's because there's no sleeping for me ever is really what it is.
That's like me. It's like me as well. I'm always, sports doesn't sleep and neither do I.
Yep.
So, but everybody, thank you again for hanging with us today. We appreciate all of the love that you guys did, all the different messages today. We will be back again tomorrow where we will find out exactly how the Dallas Cowboys will screw up their defense by having Jerry Jones take over as defensive coordinator. So
absolutely,
we are going to be right there on top of that. You'll get all of the best coverage right here on Coast to Coast. Until then, we'll see you.
We'll start out. We'll start out tomorrow also with a beat writer for the Jags and part of a Jaguar podcast. So we're gonna talk to him a little bit about what's happening there in Jacksonville.
There you go. So everybody's going to get jagged off.
100%.
Can you really say that on can you really say that?
Yes, you can. It's like saying the F word with a couple of with the little asterisks in the middle. You're perfectly fine.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, anyways, stay tuned tomorrow to find the shows that everybody can get jagged off. And we will be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.